June 2017 meeting of the Eldred Board of Education. Let's start the meeting with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. She keeps giving me a pen.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case. I get goofy about using old pens. Okay, we're going to start the meeting with Mr. Gudekunst from the Highland, the town of Highland, the councilman from the town of Highland. He has a presentation for us.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for having me
Thanks for coming.
here tonight. My name is Jim Gudekunst, and I'm on the town board of the town of Highland, and also the deputy supervisor. Tonight I'm here to discuss with you the possibility of having the seniors for the class of 2018 participate in our energy committee for the town hall for them to maybe complete their community credits. And we've never done a program like this before in this action, but we put, Carol Roy is the chairman of our energy committee, and we've been discussing that among ourselves. We also met with Bob Dufour, myself, and Scott Halleck is also a board member, and we threw it out to him, and he suggested we come up and meet with the town board and discuss this. If you'll see in your handouts, I have a few extras here. Somebody would like. As you know, New York State has been very forthright in trying to lower the state's carbon footprint and greenhouse gases, and they've developed a program called Climate Smart Communities. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Carol because she knows a lot more about it than I do.
Thank you, Jim. The Climate Smart Communities program started up around 2008. It involves several state agencies, the Department of Environmental Conservation, NYSERDA, the Department of State, the Department of Health. It's a holistic way of looking at how we prepare for climate change and providing towns and counties with the resources they need to do that planning, to get more energy efficient so that they can save on energy costs for government buildings and town buildings, but also to look toward speeding up the transition to renewable energy, and then looking at how we create greenhouse gas emissions and how we handle waste in our transportation, just looking across the board in all sectors, how can we improve this picture? As I said, there are a lot of resources, there are grants available, towns and counties that have joined the Climate Smart Communities program, taken the pledge, and are addressing those items, have access to grant funding for projects that other municipalities are not eligible for. So the town joined the program in 2014, and we've been working toward making our town buildings more energy efficient. Jim spearheaded some projects like switching out all the lighting to LED lighting, which I think you said was going to save us about $5,000 a year on our electric bill, just from the change out to LEDs. So there's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of putting together a picture, a baseline picture of where you are now as you started. So we have a wonderful volunteer who has just completed our baseline greenhouse gas inventory, and that looks at what fuels are you using, in what amount, what are you paying, and what is the greenhouse gas emission associated with that fuel use at that volume. So we're going to have a picture of costs, fuel use, energy use across all of our town buildings. We can look at transportation in the same way and look at town vehicles, although, we're a small municipality, we don't have a lot of town vehicles.
Just to add to that, Carol.
Yeah.
This software we use to do our baseline for our buildings is very sophisticated. It's put out by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and it takes into consider climate and temperatures because obviously we are different than North Carolina and Florida, and it takes all that into consideration of where your GPS, where your town is, and everything, so that you can compare a building in Eldred, New York, with a building in Tampa, Florida. but it's effective.
So that software program is called Portfolio Manager. And Nancy has entered all of that data. We will be now looking to enter that data for every year so that we can track how we're improving in cost and in energy use and in greenhouse gas emissions as we make these improvements like the LED lighting, or we switch to air source heat pumps.
Yeah, two buildings we switched to
in the
heat pumps to
senior
get
center.
rid of fossil fuel.
So we'll be
Or
tracking
use
all
the
that, so we know where we are. We know we can quantify how we're improving. So that's all based on the idea that you can't manage what you don't measure, so we're measuring now. But we also are really interested in looking at these other areas, how we deal with waste, how we look at our land use laws to see what do we need to do to plan for resiliency for climate events. And so there's a whole range of things that we're doing. What we're really interested in and wanted to discuss with you is we would love to have a student representative on our committee.
Or two.
Yes, because we'd like the students' point of view. We know they probably know more than we do about the environment because they're studying more recent information, certainly than I studied when I was in school. So we'd like to have that participation, but we would also like to look for ways that what we would ask those student representatives to do, because we're a working committee. We're not a committee that just meets and talks about stuff. We take tasks and we complete them. Find ways that what we need to do for our town in terms of preparing for climate change would fit in with different areas of the curriculum, so that we could either work out a way that there could actually be academic credit for what they're doing, or at the very least the community service credits. So we would want to be very careful and active about planning that. And it could be all across the curriculum. An environmental science, a student who's interested in environmental science or statistics or mathematics might be a good fit, but also language arts. We're going to need to start reaching out into the community now and encourage homeowners, business owners to get more energy efficient and to redouble their efforts about recycling and understand the waste stream. So there might be opportunities for communications and community outreach. So I would think that language arts and maybe someone who's interested in visual arts might also be a good fit for that committee. So that's what we wanted to ask you to consider. We'd love to set up a further meeting, maybe a smaller group where we can talk about that and see how that might work, and if we can kind of roll that out in September.
Yeah, we think it'd be good for the development of the student, because you get to work in a committee, and in these, we have projects, we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We have to get through it, We all divvy up tasks, and we've been pretty successful. We completed solar, our small solar permitting, and we got a $2,500 grant from NYSERDA for that. We're working on charging stations and locations right now, and there's some money available for that too.
And we're working all this into our zoning rewrite so that we're preparing the way that way. But it's also really important to have youth representation and participation for continuity, because this is a long-term process. I'm not going to be here forever, but this problem is going to be here for a long time, and we're going to need to have creative ways to address it, which is perfectly possible, but it would be great to have that youth involved.
I love the opportunity that this gives an interested student or two, because if they're interested in environmental science or any of the things that you were just talking about, then they get a chance to actually do hands-on work, like an internship, if you want to think of it that way. At the same time, it's a beautiful thing to put on a resume, and then they can get some real experience to say, well, I didn't think it was going to be like this, or wow, this is what I love. So thank you for the opportunity. Yes.
And actually, you might think about, maybe you're already doing this, but you might think about if a student would be interested in doing that baseline study for the school's operation, and looking at where you're spending money, and looking at informed choices for further development of the school facility. And analyzing those equipment choices and that sort of thing. So there could be some real hands-on to serve the school as well.
Yeah. Let's face it, when you lower your carbon footprint, normally you're saving money.
Right.
They're parallel each other. That's one of the reasons I got so involved, is we're
Yeah.
trying to save the town money, keep our taxes down.
And even just light bulbs.
Since this is a Town of Highland committee, would this be limited to a student that lives in the town of Highland?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think
Why
so.
not?
The town of Lumberland is
Town of Wonderland
also,
has got the
has
same
also taken the
situation.
Climate Smart Communities Pledge, although I don't think they're as active as we are right now. But they were very
Good to have
active
one
a
of
year or
each.
so ago, so
Certainly.
so it could be a.
Are you looking for just one, or are you opening this?
I think on the
I know, I think
committee
we could
or,
use two.
yeah,
maybe
at
three.
least two, yeah. But if there were more young people who
we
wanted
could-
to volunteer
Yeah.
and participate in some way, then we could certainly create a subcommittee that focused on a certain issue. I think the community outreach piece, because I know
Sure.
every time we've ever done anything involving recycling, it's the kids who know more about recycling
Yeah.
than our generation does. And so that might be a good focus to start with for some educational outreach in a fun way,
Yeah.
to get the whole community activated about that.
There's
This would be
definitely,
good for our resumes.
no, it's no doubt. I was going to say that, we all try to figure out what the economy is going to look like when kids graduate from Eldred, and you can kind of predict. And if I had to guess, I think that the jobs are going to be in environmental and energy type sectors, much like it was with the computer, 20 years
Wind
ago.
energy
And so,
technician.
absolutely. And so if there's an
Single-
opportunity,
Yeah, that's what they're predicting will be the single biggest growth area.
so even the experts think so. But I mean, if you kind of try to figure out where things are going to be, so you certainly have kids who would benefit from working locally to prepare themselves, even on a resume for college applications with something like this. And I've been to enough of your meetings to know that you guys are passionate about the environment. We have a group of people here locally who are so passionate about the environment, probably because we live in such a beautiful and naturally rich area. It's uniquely suited for Eldred students to get involved and help you, but also help themselves in terms of preparing for the economy of tomorrow.
Well, we would certainly try to make it as rich a learning experience as possible and give them some independence to come up with their own ideas, which I think is
Well,
an important
And we're
part of
very
it.
fortunate to have Carol available to, help. She's really, really knowledgeable. She was on the Sustainable Energy Committee for the county. Now she's a full-time working with Heather in the Sustainable Energy Department in Sullivan County. So we're lucky she's living in our.
Sure.
That's
wonderful.
services.
So how should we go about something like
If
that?
you can get me a list of the meetings you're talking about
Okay.
starting in September, correct?
Okay.
And as soon as we're back in session, there's a couple of different avenues I can go with this. I'll meet with Mr. Krebs, share the information with him, and when the teachers come back in the fall, I will speak with them to talk with the
Yeah, if
class
you
to
would like,
get.
if you
what
like,
we'll-
we could go talk to the teachers.
That'd
Yeah.
be great too, and what we'll try to do is get 2 and 2 alternates.
Okay.
This way, there will always be representation at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, but if you would get me the list of the dates so I have an idea of what we're looking at, and how often the committee meets, the time they meet, where exactly they meet.
Right.
And if, I'll use this information that you passed out tonight as the base for it. And I'll start speaking with the teachers, and we'll definitely have a couple of students, because there are several different classes that require community service credit. There are several classes that require policy credit. So there's a couple of different avenues we can go with.
Good, okay.
But
Is there some information on the town website about the Energy Committee?
I don't think.
And the
there-
work
I don't
you've
think
done
we have
so
it on our-
far?
One of the
No, we
things.
don't, we haven't been meeting like, the first Tuesday of the month. We're really a working committee and
We just finished up our benchmarking for the
Okay.
town buildings, and that's gonna go on the website.
Good.
So that would be, so anybody, any citizen can go on our website and see whether, what the town court justice costs in energy every year.
Thanks. Are there minutes from the meeting?
So, we haven't kept minutes.
Okay.
Jeez, what do you want,
but, we're-
Just seeing what's out there.
This isn't, this isn't,
I was just thinking, if you put together a sheet, you're looking for 2 students to,
we can.
do the committee
Make it
and
more formalized.
here's the task that you're looking for and some of the
In fact, we could have
benefits.
them take the minutes.
Take minutes of 2 other organizations.
Jim, we can,
The person who controls the document controls the meeting.
we can keep in contact over the summer,
Yeah,
and we can coordinate that so we're ready for
that
the
would be
fall.
great.
Yeah, great program.
Wonderful, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much,
Appreciate your time.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to our elementary principal report. Ms. King?
So we got through the fourth grade science tests, the lab portion and the written portion. I think it went pretty well. Our Prism concert on May 17th was a delight. It was a lot of talent in our school. The art show at Mackenzie, I hope that you had an opportunity to walk through our halls. That was, Mrs. Gersten did an outstanding job with the kids preparing for that. Our field day has changed, date has changed several times now because of all the rain. I believe the next date is 13th of June, provided we don't have rain. And parents will be invited through School Messenger and on Facebook, so please, join us for that. The PTA walkathon raised over $3,000 for the kids. There was a little second grader who, I call him a little fundraiser. She raised on her own over $500.
Oh.
Yeah. Ice cream social, hopefully there will be no rain, is June 15th at Circle Park. Kids are going on a lot of field trips. It's been a really active time. Last day of school for pre-K and kindergarten is June 16th. Pre-K and kindergarten screening will take place on June 19th through the 22nd. Academic recognition, I hope that you attend, is June 20th. And on June 21st is the 6th grade graduation.
We don't have a report this time, right, with all those dates that you just gave us?
It should be in your packet.
Oh, okay.
And just know that the field day has changed. So if you're looking to play tug of war,
All
it
right.
will not be, it was not yesterday.
All right.
What did I want to say?
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, there was another event
It's
that
online
just,
now.
it's online,
On our packet.
in your packet.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Gass is here, and Mr. Krebs has asked me if you could do your sports report.
Yes. Spring sports are over. Yeah. So 2016-17 athletics is done.
Put it in the box.
In the spring, we had modified baseball, modified softball, both had winning records. JV, softball went undefeated. Varsity baseball made sections. We had a home section game up top. Had a good turnout for that. I would say 70, 75 people, which is a lot for a high school baseball game. And our varsity softball won Section 9, and then they went back to Middletown, played against the two-time defending state champion and the #1 team in the state, and it was a really good game. 1-1, and we lost it at the very end.
Wow.
But it was a great game. So that's all said, and fall sports start up on the 14th of August. So that's right around the corner. And last night we had our athletic banquet. Everything went nice, smooth. It was a nice event. We had about 165 people or so. And everything went well there. The coaches spoke well. Some kids got awards. It was fantastic. And last thing, not really sports related, but I don't know if anyone knows. I talked to Brian Iverson and told me to make an announcement. It's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to go to NYSSMA today over in Kingston, and they were fantastic. And he is very excited.
Yeah.
The high schoolers got gold,
Wow.
Oh, my God.
and the middle schoolers got gold with distinction.
Wow.
Oh my
That's the
gosh.
highest level you could possibly get.
Isn't he doing great? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. So.
Could we get a letter out?
He only stopped me in the hall less than 90 minutes ago to show me the plaque, so I have to still get the information from him.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah,
still,
I know
he's still
now,
floating on a cloud, but I'll get
But
the
you think
information.
you're-
So,
I'm so glad.
just to make sure we understand, NYSSMA they're competing against schools much larger than us.
They're all of the schools in the county and in the
Well-
region.
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily, I don't know if they compete
not
against each
competition
other.
against
It's
the
more
schools.
But it's
It's a scoring
based on their
Yes.
performances
Like
rated on
performance.
criteria.
Yeah.
And that California thing just came out, wasn't it the California rating?
No, that was the
Community schools.
best schools for music
Music,
in the
yeah.
country.
Yeah.
That's the fifth year, I think, they got that.
Yeah, undoubtedly, there's something uniquely special about the music program in Elder. There's no
When
doubt
he
about it.
came, right? Do you remember when he came? I think we were down to 15 kids at the tops, right?
Yeah.
Impressive.
And it was like when our own kids were, they had the clarinet or the flute or whatever, and they were honking and carrying on, you know, but oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm not surprised
God
by
bless
it,
them, man.
because, you know, at the last couple of concerts, they really sounded like, you know, world class.
He's-
Because you don't see them in relation to other schools, so I just thought, we're really great, but I don't know how other schools are, so now
Now
we're
you
gold,
do.
right?
Now
So
you
now
do.
we're
We're
gold, right?
golden.
That's really, so they should be congratulated.
Very
no
cool.
doubt.
Well,
I'd
and
like to do
JJ,
it.
congratulations on a very successful spring sports season as well.
Yes,
because,
yes, sorry.
It's no, it's just, I mean, you asked for that because, you know, you said all your stuff and then you didn't let us even say, wow, and you
No,
went straight
that's-
to Brian, so.
That's okay.
But thank you for your season as
Yes.
well.
Thank you.
Very well
That's
done.
excellent standing.
I'd like to share with you guys, if I could, and with Mr. Gass, I had a chance to attend that varsity athletic banquet last night, and I've been thinking about it ever since. In fact, I called JJ and I left him a message because I was just thinking about it in the middle of the day today, but I wanted to share this with you because it's important. So there were so many kids that were honored at that athletic banquet last night, and I noticed a lot of the kids will play multiple sports, and not only that, but a lot of the kids, I don't know them at all because they're high school kids, but I recognize them from the school plays and the school concerts too, so they're involved in everything. But their achievements just on athletics were incredible, and they all, and there were a lot of them. That's my first impression was, wow, there's so many kids that are involved.
Yep.
So then I'm listening to the coaches. They each got up and they each talked about their team and their sport, and they each had an opportunity to give an MVP award. But as I'm listening to them, you know how in our board workshops we've been talking about the distinction between all the children versus
Each
every
child.
single child, right? Each individual child. And so the coaches, they knew everyone on their team. They knew them well. They knew where they had come from, how they started in 7th grade to where they'd gotten as seniors. They knew their strengths and their areas for opportunity. They knew their injuries, their struggles, their journey. Every one of them, every single one of the coaches knew their kids to the point where it was just obvious that they loved them as their own children. And I don't know, I know some of the coaches, but I don't know all of them, but it was clear that we're very, very fortunate in the folks that we
Amen.
have coaching our kids. They do a fantastic job.
I agree.
So then I'm watching the kids as they went up to stand up there, and I'm thinking, these kids, they go to other schools and other districts, and they really do serve as ambassadors for our districts. And what a great bunch of kids to represent Eldred, all of them. But there were two people that were honored specifically, and I don't mean to minimize anybody's achievements because they all had fantastic achievements, but Noah Carreri was the male athlete of the year, and he was also honored as the MVP for the wrestling team. So Coach Corcoran had an opportunity to present him with the MVP award, but he also presented him with a trophy that was the Perseverance Award from the Liberty School District.
Wow.
Now, the Liberty School District has this Perseverance Award that means a lot to their community because it's actually named after a parent who has been involved in the wrestling program for many, many years. So it's like the pride of Liberty. I graduated from Port Jervis and we had the bell, you know, the Erie bell. It was like meant everything to us. So I picture this Perseverance Award as kind of like the Erie bell, right? So really important. But Noah Carreri made such an impact on our combined squad that the Liberty coach actually handed to Coach Corcoran this trophy to present to an Eldred athlete, which is really a significant statement. And finally, Miss Lepis, Jordan Lepis, was the female athlete of the year, and she had an opportunity to kind of present an acceptance speech. And she didn't take any notes, she kind of, you know, went off the cuff, but it was the best speech I think I've ever heard from anybody, including adults. And it was just so humble. She went through and she thanked everybody who ever contributed to her success as an athlete, all of her coaches, her parents. She thanked us as a school board for the limited role that we have in funding the athletics. But she was great, and she, towards the end of her speech, she described the journey of a student athlete in a way that I'd never heard before or thought about, because I was not a student athlete in high school and my kids are little. But she talked about the sacrifices that student athletes have to make in terms of stuff that you never think of. Like, they don't get to have dinner at a normal time because they're getting home at 10:30 on a bus after a game. Then they have to do their homework and they get to bed late and they have to wake up early and they miss like school plays and dances and hanging out with their friends and all. And I never thought about it that way. So I started to feel like as she was describing this, wow, that sounds awful, like these sacrifices. But then she said she doesn't regret a single thing about it because of all of the lessons that she learned as a student athlete and all of the things that are going to prepare her to be obviously very successful in whatever she does going forward. So that's a credit to her coaches and of course her parents and everybody who facilitates the opportunity for Eldred athletes. It was really so neat of an experience that I just thought I'd take this time to share it with you guys.
So then, could I would say it one more time. I'll probably say it again. But my husband is from Rockville Center, and he never fails to praise Eldred because, you know, when you're in the city and you have a gazillion in your class, excuse me, and you have a chance to be, you whittle down to one team. He was on soccer, and then he comes to Eldred, and you have, your kids are on all teams. They're in your chorus, in your band. You have one-on-one time with your teachers, which is unheard of, you know? And to get Norman to talk, well, to get Norman to talk about anything, right? But to talk about Eldred is quite a thing. And I just, what I'm trying to say is that we are so blessed to be in this school. Our kids just went on so far ahead than a lot of other kids when they entered the first year of college, so we don't realize that.
Yeah?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I hope we do.
So congrats, Mr. Gass. Good job.
Yes.
JJ, thank you. And, you know, all year round, all year long, it's a hard job that you have, and you make it look easy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our business administrator.
I didn't finish with Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I only
My
started.
fault.
All right. One other thing on my report that I wanted to talk about that I couldn't think of it at the time. Well, yesterday, we had the seniors walk through the halls of Mackenzie. And if you check out the Facebook
Oh, yeah.
page for Mackenzie, those are only the pictures that I took. Mrs. Lombardi also took some pictures. But I was able to get, I hope, every child that's graduating. Student council report, are there any students here? Okay. I can't do the student council report. He just asked me to ask if there were any students here to report. Tomorrow, Dr. DeFore will be attending the special education graduation at BOCES. On June 12th is the Sullivan County Academic Awards Dinner. Will be taking place in Liberty, recognizing the top academic students in the county. June 15th is the VOTEC graduation at Tri-Valley. And June 24th is the Eldred graduation at 10 a.m. And everything is listed in your packet.
Thank you.
And that's all I
Thank you,
have.
thank you, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, our business administrator report, Ms. Lewis.
Did you all get the report that was in your packet?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to reiterate that, unless you have a question about something that I listed.
Well, for the benefit of the public, don't you normally go through
okay.
the...
Then I can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I attended the ASBO conference this past week and learned a lot of new updated information and received some training on some new initiatives that are being put forth with regards to education. So I'm sorting through those. I just got back today, sorting through them and trying to implement what I can and prioritize what is the most important initiative to work on. I've been working on reporting requirements for the maintenance of effort as far as our federal grant funding and special education, and the REAP grant, the Rural Education Achievement Program grant that is due the end of June. And that is a new format this year. You actually have to fill out an application. So that is something I've been doing. Preparing the fiscal year closeout, getting AP closed out so that we don't have a lot of accruals to carry over. We know where we stand June 30th. And salary statements for next year, payroll, tying up all the loose ends, getting everything done. I did have some fun. I attended the Selfless Kindergarten trip to ShopRite and the Sullivan County Federation for the Homeless, and we donated well over $300 worth of groceries to Sullivan County Federation for the Homeless. ShopRite did give us a $100 donation, but the rest of the money came from the kindergarten students who collected it throughout the year. And that was a fun trip. ShopRite gave them lunch, and it was really, they were just thrilled to be there. They told me I'm the best grocery bagger there is. I prepared the public notice and the bid for the bus lease financing. The bid was released on Monday. I believe the public notice also appeared on Monday, and I've had 5 financial institutions contact me for the bid. So we do have a nice competitive field. I've been reviewing and reviewing 4 negotiations with the bus drivers for their contract, which expires June 30th. And Dr. DeFore and I will be meeting to discuss that. I have also implemented improvements to the junior senior high school breakfast program, which have been met with rave reviews, and even the teachers are happy. So that's going over very well. I participated in a meeting for the farm-to-table greenhouse and a potential salad bar option for junior senior high school. And the idea behind that is that we are looking into erecting a potential greenhouse on the grounds and growing some vegetables, so that vegetables and florals, we would like the greenhouse to be producing. So, but the vegetables, we're trying to figure out how we can do it so that they can be used. I don't think we can grow the quantity for the cafeteria, but maybe we can grow for the home and careers class, and they can do like a taste on Tuesday and incorporate some of these different vegetables and herbs. Maybe some students have never tried them, gives them an opportunity to try something different. And it also is in alignment with Sullivan County's initiative for healthier communities, and eating fresh vegetables and fruits is in a direct correlation with a metabolic syndrome, and trying to deter that and decrease the incidence of that. So
I just want to make a mention, because the impetus for this project actually came from 2 of our students, Molly Clarkin and Lindsay Kelty, who are in the New Visions program up at Sullivan County BOCES. In their coursework, they had to stake out a public policy, and they had to make a presentation on it, and they had to provide a proposed solution and a counter argument. And I was privileged to go up to BOCES last Friday to see their presentation, and I'm going to try to get them either at the July or August board meeting, because their research was the impetus for Mrs. Pratchler and one other teacher coming to me to bring this up as a possible concept. And they researched funding angles. They did a really, really nice project. So I'm going to get them here over the summer to give the same presentation that I saw. It's about 15 minutes long, and it's a nice presentation. But the goal is to do the legwork, groundwork for the funding, the design, the curricular work, because there are several of our science classes and our home and careers classes whose curriculum will directly tie into this project, and select the site. And we're hoping to actually be able to construct the greenhouse in the summer of 2018.
Wow.
And we are filling out a grant application for a salad bar for the high school cafeteria, because the students have been actually requesting healthier options and talking to Mrs. Pratchler in health class about it. And it is something that I'm very passionate about. And I really feel that local initiative is important, fresh is important, and if we can get these children to understand where their food comes from, it doesn't come off the stands at ShopRite. It comes out of the ground.
Yeah.
And it starts from a seed, and you fertilize it. And so this is a passion of mine, so I really am going to be excited about seeing this through to the finish.
Question?
Yes.
I didn't catch if you said, did you look into a cost for a greenhouse, or could we possibly work with a shop class for a greenhouse?
We are working with Cornell Cooperative in Sullivan County and the Sullivan Renaissance to see if we can get some grant funding for this kind of thing. And we're just deciding on what's the best. Is it a high tunnel? Is it a geodesic dome? Is it a typical greenhouse? We just have to figure out where we're going to put it and what kind's going to work out best for us.
Great.
There's also a possibility to work with BOCES for their heavy equipment and other classes to become involved in the project.
Great.
And it ties in.
We're in the starting phases right now.
I'm excited tonight.
It ties in with our what we did in the kindergarten with our composting and our trip to the. I didn't make it to the landfill. I really wanted to go, but I didn't get there. And with composting.
That's
If we
great.
can get the younger grades to start doing the composting of the scraps from the kitchens
Sure.
and work on that, maybe we can bring over some of that soil right here in the greenhouse and just really make it a really nice project for the entire school and get the children involved.
Just before you continue, Ruth, so your passion is fantastic, and there's also, I was looking for Mrs. Roy, she left, but there's a bunch of people in our town that are also passionate about this. So if we have an opportunity, once it's the right time, to communicate out to our community that this is a plan that's in the works, I bet you'd probably find some volunteers or donors, people that are definitely interested.
Well, we're definitely going to need that because there will be harvest and weeding and watering in the summer, so
Yeah.
we will need those volunteers. So it would be a community-wide effort. So I would look to you for that kind of information.
I'll spread the word too, but we've got our Facebook page now as a district that reaches a lot of people, and whatever you can do to get the word out. Otherwise, people might not know what's going on, but they might want to get involved in it, so that's always helpful.
Okay. The last thing is I have reviewed the asset report for insurance renewal process, and you'll see on the agenda tonight, we are exiting quite a bit of antiquated equipment, so hopefully that will bring our insurance premiums down. And one thing I did learn at my conference this week is that there is a company that will come in and review our insurance policies and get quotes for us, so that maybe we can get lower premiums, or our insurance carrier will feel the pressure to lower them because of a competitive action. And that, and we met with the auditor tonight, so our audit will be starting. We had our entrance conference this evening, and it went fairly well, and I think we're in pretty good shape. There was some recommendations, and we're gonna look to get some of those on the agenda for the future.
Yes.
Any questions?
Perfect.
I have two questions. Anybody else? So Dr. DeFore, you said the BOCES is going to come in and talk specifically about the aspect of the New Visions program that deals with the greenhouse, right? Is that what you said?
No. 2 students, they're graduating in 2 weeks. I'm asking them to come back to give their presentation.
Oh, yes, okay, all right.
To kind of turn the clock back to the beginning, so
Okay.
everyone knows where this started.
That's cool. That's perfect. So I didn't think of this beforehand, but I remember a couple meetings ago, there was a student who described the New Visions program, and it was the first time I heard of it, but she mentioned that she was looking to become an epidemiologist and was in this program. And it sounds like a really cool program that I don't know a lot about. So I would think that it might be, if possible, to bring BOCES in to give a presentation to us as a board and our community about what New Visions is overall. Because
We
it
had
sounds like
one
a
of the
really great
largest
program.
contingent of students in the program this year. We had 3 students.
I can
Okay.
give you some information on that. My oldest daughter participated in New Visions in Orange County when she was a graduating senior. And she went to college with 24 college credits.
Oh,
Wow.
Visions to see if we can bring in.
It sounds like a really fantastic ride. I'd never heard of it until it
Well,
was.
24 is a little high. 18 she went.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, most college students, they say take 12 credits a semester, but then you have to do another semester because you don't have enough to graduate.
Yeah.
So she actually was able to graduate on time.
I'll try to get the director in the next couple of months.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
I don't know if they're a 10-month employee or not, so we may have to wait till the fall, but we'll follow up on it.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, just so people are aware that the program's out there. And then finally, the bus driver contract you said expires June 30th, so we don't have another meeting until after that date. Are we going to discuss this further tonight, or?
We're not.
We've just begun negotiations with them.
Okay.
And
just stays in
their current
Stays.
contract is honored until such time that a new one
Thank
goes
you.
into effect.
Perfect, okay.
I can't talk too much more about it. though.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because the negotiations are ongoing.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions? Then our district report from Dr. DeFore.
Just a couple of quick things. Last week, Brian, Ginny, and I had the privilege of attending the Sullivan County School Boards Association Outstanding Educator Award Dinner, and our honoree that evening was June Lombardi, and there was a nice turnout of the faculty and staff for June, and it was a very nice evening. I believe in your packet is a letter from June that I found on my desk on Tuesday when I went down to Mackenzie. Also last week, and it wasn't mentioned in Mr. Krebs's report, the Eldred Faculty Association hosted the Junior Senior High School Academic Recognition Dinner, and that night We had members of the Junior National Honor Society, the National Honor Society, and the Art National Honor Society inducted. Also, we now have a Music National Honor Society.
Really?
So they had artwork displayed there, academic recognition for principals list were presented by the Faculty Association. It was one of the larger turnouts I've seen in the past 7 years. The room was pretty much packed, and the Faculty Association does a beautiful job with it. They put out refreshments for the parents and for the students, and I just want to make sure the word goes back from those faculty members present that we certainly appreciated it. Everyone had a really good time. This past Monday night, we had senior baccalaureate at St. Anne's Church. Let me see if I remember this right. Amador was in the choir singing, his son Tyler was in the choir singing, his son Amzi was in the choir singing, his wife was down 2 rows in front of me directing the choir from down below. It was a night of Laputz, and his daughter Sam is our valedictorian, and she gave the student address, and it was one of the nicer addresses I've heard from the students in the past couple of years, so it was a very, very nice evening. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Bob?
No, can I say, I'll be really brief, but it's been a kind of a cool month to be a board member. I went to, these things aren't fun, but some of the things we get to go to are really fun. So the night where we honored Mrs. Lombardi as the Outstanding Educator of the Year was really, really great, mostly because I had a chance to actually be in her classroom this year to see the really just outside the box, different, fantastic things that she's doing for her kids, and this focus on being selfless as kindergartners. And there were a lot of people there from Eldred. We kind of dominated that one like we've been dominating things lately. So I read her letter, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she describes this outside the box thinking, and I thought about it. It's like, when you have a small school like this, it's about the individuals that you have in the school that do really, really great things. We all talk about process and policy and stuff like that, but it comes down to actual people, and we have so many of them, and they do really great things. But her passion for the way that you should treat other people and the way that you should treat the planet is unique, and she takes that, and as a kindergarten teacher, she inspires these young ones, right? And so, without getting like corny and quoting Whitney Houston or anything like that, the thing is that when you have an opportunity to inspire young children, if you really want to make changes in the world and the way that people are and the way they treat everybody, you inspire children to do it. And she does it all the time. And I think that's the reason why we all chose to recognize Mrs. Lombardi. I would just say that what we can do as a board to kind of, make that bigger is certainly we should recognize her for her individual accomplishments, but we should try to take that and make that infectious somehow through policy or through the discussions that we have or through our vision that we're working on. We should find out what Mrs. Lombardi's doing, not the specific things that she's doing, because things you do in kindergarten don't apply in high school and even in the upper elementary grades, but whatever the fundamental principles are that enable her to say, I know the right way to inspire children, and even though I'm being told by Engage New York worksheets and Common Core standards and stuff to do it differently, I should take this and inspire other people to have the courage to do that as well. That came out wrong, but what I wanted to say is that what Mrs. Lombardi is thinking in her mind about the way to teach is the way that a lot of teachers think, and we should take that and use it to inspire everybody in our entire district to do great things. So, and I feel badly because I wanted to recognize her specifically for her achievements. That's what that was all about. But I just think as a board we should see that and take that and make something bigger of it.
And you know what? I've always found her to be a person who loves life.
Yeah.
And when you look at our teachers, I don't want to sound corny, but we see a serviceman person and we thank them. Well, you walk up to a teacher and you thank you,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
You're right. So congratulations to Mrs. Lombardi.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Bob? Any comments, concerns? Okay, so that goes to board president report. I don't really have a report per se. Since the election a couple of weeks ago, I had an opportunity to congratulate Ms. Wagner
And, you know, obviously, this will be my last address. So, so just a, you know, just a quick little thought, okay? 28 plus years of public education. This is the hardest job you'll ever do. This is it, right here. You know, I don't care what anyone says. So the bottom line is, so long as we err on the side of kids, I'm totally good with it, and I got your back. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
And thank you for the 28 years of service.
Oh.
I'm
That
done.
was child's play. Okay, public comment, limited to consent agenda items only, 401 to 707. Again, for the last time. We made a change. We bring public comment to the beginning, so you have an opportunity to address the board before a decision is made on something, okay? So, public comment limited to consent agenda items. Yes?
I think I'm 607 on there, so I just wanted to tell you guys, first, very cool about the greenhouse thing. I love that idea. Love it.
That's not on the agenda.
I'm sorry. It's good to hear all these other things happening. I've been out of it for a while. So, just wanted to thank you so much for all the support that you've given me, my children, and my husband as we have traveled this crazy journey that started almost a year ago. And I just want to thank you so much for all that you've done, the support that you've given me as a district. As a community, it's overwhelming, utterly overwhelming. And like I said in my letter to you guys, like, I wish that grateful to be alive was synonymous with healed, but it's not. And it's a process, and it's a journey that I think I'll be going on for a while. But I really appreciate what you've done, and that you're considering the leave of absence for next year as I continue to focus on healing and my family, because one thing that car accident proved to me was what was important. No offense, my job was not on my mind. when Ann Steinwell said to me, "You're okay and your kids are fine," you know. So thank you for what you've done, and I look forward to being involved.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Scotty Greenberger. I'm president of Highland Seniors, and as president of Highland Seniors, I get asked a lot of questions regarding the school, or they talk about things going on in the school. So it's the first time I came to a couple of meetings with one group here, and some of my questions are regarding the greenhouse, which I didn't know about. Are you looking at with Cornell Cooperative Extension?
Yes, we are working with Cornell.
Okay, and I assume BOCES will have something to do with it?
Probably some, yes. We're going to try to collaborate with BOCES, Cornell, and Sullivan Renaissance.
Right. By the way, I just want to say my background. I taught 38 years in the South Bronx, and I was a school teacher. I taught math, I taught English. My specialty was industrial arts, which I love, and I'm sorry that the schools sort of cut that out.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to go to college. They have to learn a trade somewhere along the line, which hopefully BOCES will satisfy that need. The other thing, I was a guidance counselor for the last 8 years of my career, and also I was an acting assistant principal for a while. My point is now, getting back to what I want to talk about, but I just want you to know my background. Regarding the school buses, and I need information on this.
Excuse me, that's not part of our consent agenda, so this public comment is just pertaining to our consent agenda. Okay, so we have a public comment towards the end of the meeting. Yeah, can you hold that thought for 1 second? All right, thank you. Anyone else with public comment for the consent agenda? Yes.
I believe the sixth grade advisor will not be at Chris Chesky.
Do you? Oh, sorry.
It should be in 602.
Sixth grade. That's going to be you, Linda?
It will.
All right. Does Ann know?
You know,
It's all right.
yes. I thought we changed that, and she said, oh my gosh, we did change it, please fix it. So, it was something that we had done together, and then when I had some medical issues, she had taken it on herself, and then we had made the decision to have them do it next year.
Okay, any other public comments?
I have a question about 6.04, hiring Mrs. Woodsboro as a permanent teacher. If Mrs. Shelby-Blickman were to return, what happens to Mrs. Woodsboro's position?
That'd be addressed at that time.
Okay, so do we have any other permanent positions that she would be able to slide into, or what is the reason that we're setting a permanent position to her?
Because I'm recommending a permanent position for her because she's already served 1 year in the district. And I think it's only fair that she be on a tenure track position in the event that Cherish does not return. So she's earning her tenure and in that track.
And at that time, though, would it be an
At
option
that time,
to just
if there,
credit
if,
service?
at
We
that
don't have to
time,
extend a permanent position, but just give her the credited service of years.
no, they have 4 years before they're granted tenure.
Okay.
Okay? And their employment can be terminated at any time for any reason during those 4 years.
So she's on a track that gives recognition to her skills and abilities as a full-time teacher. Doesn't mean she's going to get all the way through there to.
How was she appointed to that position? Because we're offering a position to someone who, have they interviewed, have we canvassed the community for other candidates, or was this just a leave replacement that somebody applied for?
This was a canvas position, and all of those interviews were conducted last year when she was brought in as the lead replacement.
Okay, and how has her evaluation process been held for the past year?
As far as what, ma'am?
Has she been evaluated
Yes,
to
she
the same
has.
standards that the rest of her faculty members have?
Yes, she has.
Okay.
I have a number of questions about that specific issue. I'll hold them for the comment period for the consent agenda.
This was that.
Okay, any other public
Oh, I
comment?
see.
Great, then let's move to the, a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended. 602 was amended to include, to replace Ms. G with Linda Hazen.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, please?
I have a couple questions about a few items on the consent agenda. Regarding item number 4.01, which is the approval of the minutes for both the May 4th meeting and the May 17th meeting. And Lisa, I'm so sorry that I have to ask these questions, because I understand that this is like the biggest meeting that we have each year, and there's a lot of notes to be taken. But the question I have is that in the minutes for the first part of our district meeting, the part where we met before the actual vote was held, there was, and I read through those minutes, and it was done very well. Everything was accounted for, except that there was an extensive discussion about the actual election rules of order, the voter qualifications, and the ballot privacy issues, which is not reflected in the minutes anywhere, and the minutes account for everything else. So I'm thinking it's an oversight, but I think that, again, because minutes are an official record of the meetings, even though we have the live videotape, that we should account for everything that occurred. So I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. There was a discussion about election rules of order, voter qualifications, and ballot privacy. I think we should include that in the minutes.
But that's, if that's what I'm thinking it is, it's part of the actual minutes, right? She read it off the minutes.
No, different, Linda. So the part that she had to read, which is the legal language that you're required
Right.
to read publicly. What I'm talking about is that we were talking about the election law versus school law and the way that we manage and govern elections, the eligibility of voters to participate, privacy protections for the ballot. Remember that discussion we had?
Yeah, but it wasn't so much a discussion as pointed out how that we valued it and that we were handling it correctly.
But we spent 22 minutes talking about it, and it's not on the minutes. So I think we should include something to state that there was a discussion held regarding those issues.
Okay? I don't have a problem with that.
So could she put, she has a name. Could we put something like extensive discussion ensued pertaining to?
Perfect. Yeah, because we agreed at that same meeting that we're not going to spell out the actual words we had, but if we have a discussion about something,
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time on it, we would record it in the minutes. So that's all I'm suggesting. So I think we can approve the minutes as, with the understanding that Lisa's going to amend it to include that, right? That's just my suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay?
Okay.
So, I have a question about item number 6.04 and 6.07. And I'm going to ask the question in a way that I think we can have this entire discussion in a public forum. But if it gets to the point where any of you think that this requires us to convene an executive session since we're dealing with individual personnel matters, then I'm comfortable with that as well. But I prefer to have the discussion in general in public. Because the names are in the agenda, and I think we're okay. So, but again, stop me if I'm going too far and you want to convene an executive session. So 6.04 is the recommendation of the superintendent to hire Mrs. Joanne Burrows Woods to the position of elementary teacher for the 2017-2018 year in the elementary education tenure area with a probationary period of 3 years. So in other words, she'll be on the teacher's contract at step 2 in the tenure track. Item number 6.07 is to approve an unpaid leave of absence for Mrs. Galvin Gleefernick for the entire year from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, which I think is absolutely fully supportive of, right? So I have a few questions about this because now we are approving a leave of absence for a teacher who is assigned to the 3rd grade classroom. I understand it's not an official assignment, she's in the tenure track area. At the same time, we have a teacher filling for that classroom on a leave replacement period. Now we've made the decision that even though we're extending the leave of absence for that same teacher, that we're going to hire this teacher on a permanent basis. So we're making a long-term commitment to a teacher in a classroom where it's really just to fill a leave replacement. Now, I heard your answer, Dr. DeFore, to Ms. Wagner, where she asked, what the rationale was for this, and you described it as fairness to the employee. But I think we need a little bit more. We need to be more than just fair to the employee. We have to be responsible in our decisions. I also heard you say that we needed to do this so that she'd be in the tenure track. So even if we were based on fairness, we make sure that she's in the tenure track. But as I read this, it says that there's a probationary period of 3 years. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the standard probationary period is 4 years.
Right, she's being given credit, which we're required to do for the 1 year she's already served.
Absolutely. So if we were to extend her position as another 1 year of leave replacement, and then next year at this point, if there was a need to hire a permanent teacher, if that need arose, which it is not currently, we would be able to credit her towards now 2 years towards the probationary period for the tenure, right? So we'd be able to say that she'd have a probationary period of 2 years. Couldn't we do that next year?
I don't know.
Well, we're doing it this year. We're saying that we're going to credit her the 1 year.
Without looking it up, I believe you can only grant 1 year of credit.
Okay, I just think that for a variety of reasons, and I'll try to articulate them, this is not a responsible decision, okay? The reason it's not a responsible decision is because we have a teacher who we've employed, who we've now granted a leave of absence, okay? So we don't have a vacancy per se, we have a need to fill a temporary leave replacement. I think the appropriate thing would to do is to fill that classroom with a temporary leave replacement person, not to extend a long-term commitment to an employee on behalf of our community, our taxpayers and all.
It's not a long-term commitment. It's a 1 year hire. She's on a tenure track.
But I understand, but we've done that this year, Carol. We've done that by appointing her as a leave replacement.
Because we didn't know how long it would be this first year.
And we still don't.
Well, we
We're extending
know
an entire year.
we've got a full year. Therefore, the respect she's owed then would be to recognize that she should be on a tenure
So
track.
I do hear, again, I hear
That's all.
respect and I hear, I forget the
To
word.
this
that you used.
employee.
But that's not what, that is not our, and I don't take this the wrong way, because I don't mean any ill will towards this individual. I only met her one time. It's not about the person. That employee is not our constituency. Our constituents include the folks who elect us and ask us to represent their interests.
But Brian, this is 6 1/2.
Not really, Carol. It is as a hire of a permanent employee as
She's
opposed
not,
to.
we're not hiring her any differently than if we called her a leave replacement or a tenure track.
All right,
we
so-
are recognizing what she has done and is going to do for us by putting her on a tenure track. But it's not permanent. We're not making any greater commitment to her than we made to her last year.
What about financially?
Can I give you my take on this?
Yes, please, Dr.
My take on this is that assume for a second what Brian is describing occurs. that Cherish comes back to us after this school year, okay? Now, we don't have a need for Joanne Burrows Woods. So what happens then is she gets excessed. At that point, the only difference between her being a lead replacement and on a tenure track is she has callback rights. That's the only difference. So that means if we have a need for an elementary teacher in the future, she has callback rights to that position.
Thank you.
That's the way I see it.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification, because I just learned something.
Yeah, am I right in that? Okay.
However, I still don't hear rationale aside from it's fair to the person, as opposed to it makes sense for the district or it's good for the children. We don't have a responsibility here as a board to make sure that we're doing right by an individual person. We have a responsibility to make sure that we're making financially responsible decisions on behalf of the community and decisions that are aligned with the best interest of the children
Being
who are
paid
our
the same
primary
amount
focus.
as if she would be a leave replacement.
So it's the same amount of money?
Exact same.
Okay.
If she was extended for one more year, it'd still be the same amount.
No, I'm sorry. So we're talking about this year. So this particular year, if
She was
this...
a leave replacement, and pursuant to the teacher's contract, she was under the teacher's contract from day one and on step one.
Okay. So the only difference is the callback responsibilities that we would have. So,
Well, plus she's into that, oh God, I hate to say it, core. But she's, how do I say it? She's going, they have a set of reading books. She's
experienced.
And then what the rest of the grades are doing. So she gets that.
That's why she's on
class for
step
next
2 and
year.
not step 1.
Exactly. And then if she gets them next year, she's keeping them going on that same, that's a terrible way of saying it.
no, I understand. I'm
You know what
actually
I mean?
surprised to hear
That's
you
true. That's
presenting
true.
that as a
I know, kind of
benefit.
put the gag there.
Right. I mean,
But it is a
I'm actually surprised.
Brian, I wouldn't make the recommendation unless I thought it was the best thing to do and the best interest of the district.
I understand, but we
Okay.
have an oversight role, and
I
I just have...
understand that. And we are satisfied with her performance. She's gotten good performance reviews.
Well, then.
We think she's an asset to the district, and we would like to continue her employment. And she is another year on a leave replacement. We could face very easily October, her leaving and going elsewhere to get a permanent position. Okay?
This way we don't.
During the probationary period, our commitment is very limited. We can let them go for any reason or no reason at all. I think it's the most prudent thing to do, otherwise I wouldn't be recommending it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to, and respectfully, a teacher leaving in October is an unfortunate situation that we should try to avoid at all costs, okay? But it's not October, it's June. And so we're talking now about opportunities to plan for the upcoming school year, which is much, much different from having to make a change or recruit somebody in the middle of a school year. And what I'm saying is that when the person was hired for the leave replacement, let me just ask the question. When we have a permanent teacher position that's available, there's a process in place to advertise, recruit, interview, and then ultimately hire that person. I suggest that we follow that process. If we are
We did.
hiring, but
When
we were
we
hiring
hired
somebody
her,
for a
we went
leave,
through that process.
but we were hiring for a leave replacement. And we don't have any obligation to not redo that process.
I'll respectfully disagree with you. We
We
went
have
through
an
the
obligation.
process, and this is the individual that I feel
All right.
would be most
But
appropriate.
I appreciate that, and what I'm suggesting is that we don't have an obligation to not repeat that process. We are under no legal contractual obligation to not reopen that process and see if maybe there's an opportunity that we can do, we can recruit additional candidates. That's what we do when we have open teachers. We're making important decisions about who it is that we're going to employ in this district. Hopefully they'll be here for a long time, and every opportunity we have to do that the right way, I think we should do it the right way.
There comes a point at which we need to recognize the job that Bob DeFore does and the job that we do. This is not our oversight, I hear you, but whether or not we pick this person and give her this title or that title. If it is not impactful of the budget, if it is not in any way impactful of the children, in fact, it's better because she'll have some continuity in the district as opposed to reopening the search, then it becomes not our job. This is why we have a superintendent.
Okay, so Carol, no, and I appreciate that, but I have to absolutely disagree with that. We do have an oversight role when it comes to financial matters, but we also are responsible as a Board of Education for the vision of the district. Now, we're in the process right now of actually creating a vision, right? So we're trying to figure it out what exactly it is that we want to be. And the best way that you actually arrive at what you want to be are the people that you have. Now, we happen to be fortunate to have really great people, but we are in the midst of that process, and we're not nearly finished with it. And I would suggest that we don't hire anybody until we know exactly what our vision is, what our mission is, and then we make sure that the folks that even want to interview to come work in our district are aligned with that vision and that mission. And then we set an expectation for our administrators when they're interviewing these people and hiring these people that they're aligned with our vision. We're not done with that right now.
But we can't stop hiring just because we don't have a vision
No, I understand,
yet.
but we are under no obligation at this point to hire a permanent employee as
She's
opposed
not
to a leave
permanent.
replacement.
You've got to stop using that word.
Well, then why do we have, why aren't we approving a leave replacement for the year, though, if there's no distinction?
Because if she's on a tenure track, she's more likely to stay. And she's a quality employee, which you might be missing the part that she's had good evaluations and good respect of her colleagues, and that parents have talked to me and other people about her quality. So therefore, we don't want to lose her. So we give
So now
her.
we're talking about, so I think we're now at the point where she convene an executive session, because we're now talking about feedback that we've had on a specific employee. I would make a motion that we enter executive session to discuss specific details related to this employee.
No.
Do I have a second? Okay.
I got a comment.
Yes, Lynn.
With all due respect, you said yourself you met her once. We don't know her.
No, I don't, and that's
We
not part of the
don't
role.
know her.
Yeah, that's not part of the role.
Dr. DeFore knows her. And, I mean, if there's anything great that we should know about, we would know it. That is his job.
Well, no, Carol is relying upon information that she knows personally.
I'm relying on information from parents, from teachers, from the evaluations. I haven't seen them. I heard that she had decent evaluations.
So for the record, I haven't heard anything, and
Okay.
I'm not relying upon any information I
But you
have
could
about
have
this
asked as a
individual.
board member or as a public. Has she had evaluations? In fact, Allison just asked, has she had good or you asked if she had evaluations. I simply asked
Was it
because I wanted to
Candace?
know because she was on the agenda.
No,
That's all.
I'm really not focused on this individual at all. I have no concern for the name. What I'm trying to suggest is that when we have an opportunity to hire somebody into our district, that we need to do our due diligence.
And we
if-
have.
Okay, and we have an opportunity to do that again. So we are under no obligation to extend this in any way other than making it a leave replacement. And I'm not going to go on and on and on about this. I've expressed my opinion. So if you guys don't want to discuss this in executive session on the specific details that we may all individually know, then we can just go ahead and vote on it. All right, but I think it would be beneficial if we convene an executive session so that Carol can share with us what she knows that we don't know.
I just did. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I have no further questions.
Any other questions, guys?
From our audit meeting, I want to propose a walk-on motion. Would that be under new business?
Yeah. let's
It's
keep
not
that
part
down
of the
to-
consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so then, without any further discussion, then we'll vote. Brian?
No. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Doug. Can we remove 604 from the consent agenda and vote on it separately?
Okay, so then let's have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
4.01 through 7.07, excluding 6.04.
I'll second.
Okay? Any further discussion? Then we'll vote on that, all but 604. Okay, Brian?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Amador?
Yes.
And I'll say yes to that. Which means we need a motion to accept 6.04.
I'll make a motion that we accept 6.04 as written.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Then we'll vote on that. Brian?
No.
Carol?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Amador?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Okay, that takes us to old business, guys. Anybody have any old business for the board? Okay. New business, Amador?
Yeah,
But now I don't see it. Maybe it was the minutes. It was the minutes. Oh, that's what it was. I saw it under old minutes.
No.
okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
So new business, we need a walk-on motion. I'm gonna, to make a motion, maybe you can help me with the wording. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for the, attending the audit meeting with us. I'd like to make a motion, approval of a reserve balance transfer not to exceed $150,000 from the unemployment reserve to the employee benefit reserve. Does that sound right?
No,
good.
what is this?
So,
We need a second first.
yeah, second, and then I'll discuss that. Anyone want a second?
Can I have a second for that motion, please?
I'll second, but
Okay.
for discussion.
Okay, so
Yeah.
at the audit meeting, and you don't have this document, but we went over our major reserve balances, and in our employee benefit reserve, our end-of-year 6/30/16 balance was $223,000. This is a balance that the board can put into, but we cannot take funds out of it without, we need the public vote. Voter approval.
I'm sorry, Amador, can you tell me, what was that reserve called again?
It's the employee benefit reserve.
Okay.
So in the event that sick and vacation time is paid out, are there any other stipulations to that? That would come out of this reserve
Upon someone's retirement,
upon retirement.
vacation and sick accruals would be paid to them, and it would come from this reserve.
That's why we reserve the money, so that we have it when we need
Because
it.
at this point, right now, in 2006, as of 2016, we have $627,000 of accrued vacation and sick
Liability.
time liability that could be paid, could cause to be paid by the retirement of employees. And we only have $223,000 in there. I don't suggest funding it to the full amount, but I do believe that there should be more in there because we have several teachers who have the tenure to be able to retire, and they have a vast amount of accrued time that this district would need to pay.
And we're currently funding it at $223,000.
Correct.
You want to increase it to, by 150?
Not to exceed.
Oh,
What's
excuse
gonna
me.
happen, I'm going to go and do the research and get the numbers
Okay.
for the top tenured people,
Mhm.
so that we have a better understanding of the numbers.
Okay.
But this resolution needs to be passed by June 30th for us to be able to even move the money.
I see.
That's why I'm not suggesting a higher amount, because I'm being conservative.
And we're moving the money out of what
We're
reserve?
moving it out of the unemployment
Unemployment.
reserve because our unemployment expenses historically are very low. And that fund has $325,000 in it.
Yeah.
And as you see, well, you don't have it, but.
But it's good oversight
as of
then, is what you're saying to me.
Yes, it's good oversight. It's the money, and you're not just releasing the money to be spent. You're
No.
moving it to another reserve that you really have to have.
Ruth, isn't the FLR a
Oh,
restricted
sure,
reserve
internal.
fund, which means we would not be able to access the money if there was a need?
It is a restricted reserve fund, and does require voter approval. But if you have several people retire and you need to pay that money out,
Then you'd have to have public approval, voter approval?
Yes.
To take the money out of that
voter
reserve?
approval to have that
Mhm.
money.
If you were going to use the money for some other purpose, you
Some
would need
other
voter approval.
purpose.
Oh, but not-
If you're using it to pay out your accruals, you're okay.
Okay,
But for any
that's what I
other
misunderstood.
purpose-
Yeah, I get it.
But a transfer from one fund to another only requires majority board approval.
Once that money's in there,
Yeah.
it needs voter approval.
For
That's
any-
why I'm
But it
asking
doesn't
my
need voter
question.
The transfer only requires board approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, are we gonna vote on the actual number once that's determined, or can you do that without our?
As
We
long
can
as it's-
determine what we want to transfer. Once I do the research, you can determine, but it cannot be more than the
Yeah, as long as it
150.
doesn't exceed.
So it has to be
Correct.
phrased that
Right.
way.
Meets our,
All right.
The audit committee just met this evening,
Yes.
right? You're a
6
member of the
o'clock.
audit committee, I assume?
Yes.
And who else is on the audit committee?
Paul Clark, Doug Reiser, and Susan from Cooper area was in these discussions. She presented the report for the entrance conference, and the discussion ensued after the report was presented on moving the funds, and
Thank you.
she was leaving that up to us, but was involved in all of that.
Okay. Are we able to open this for public comment before we vote on this? We have a member of the public who participated in the audit committee, which we did not, so
Mr. Clark.
I don't know if Mr. Clark
something
wants to
add?
offer any comments.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. If that fund is, and we do have teachers in that area where they could retire within the next couple of years. We have the money available in the unemployment reserve.
Yeah,
We
it's-
don't need now. We can fully fund. Who wants to have $600,000 liability and not have the funding? Where are we going to go for it? We're going to try to build it into our budget. Should be protected by putting it in that fund.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion?
I have no more, no.
Okay, then let's vote on this, this motion. Brian?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Carol?
Yes,
Linda?
And I'm very sorry, could I just hear it one more time?
the motion.
I'm sorry.
Can you read back that motion, please? And then we'll start
Vaguely, just
again.
You can have that if you want. It's written on the bottom.
Okay. Approval of the reserve balance transfer not to exceed 150 from the unemployment reserve to the employee benefit reserve.
150.
150,000.
Not to exceed, so
Not to
it-
exceed.
it's likely to be less. Well, it has to be.
Can I speak on that also? The reason you're doing that tonight is because the resolution needs to be done before July 1st. And that's why you're doing it tonight. But it does give you the latitude, when she does her research, to say, okay, well, it's not as bad as I thought, maybe we only need to take 100,000. So that gives you the option.
Yeah.
And
We're
from
covered.
being at school board meetings, I know that many times in the past, these resolutions and transfers were not done prior to July 31st, but they are, legally should be done prior to the end of the year.
Additionally, our unemployment reserve right now is 325,000, and we've had expenses in 14 and 15 of only 10,000 a year. So at this point, you know, we'd be better served to move the money to where it will do us the most good. Okay.
If the comptroller should come in and audit, they will ding us on that unemployment reserve being
Okay.
overfunded.
Okay, another benefit.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so let's vote again then, please.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
So Brian,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Amador?
Yes.
And I'll say yes as well. Thank you. Any other new business?
Nope, guess not.
Okay, Mr. Greenberger, you're up.
Regarding the buses, a few things.
Thank you.
Number one, I noticed, and many people have noticed, particularly the seniors, they tell me this, but I've seen seniors too, that the buses don't run full. Is that true? That they run, sometimes when 20 children run
I don't know if it runs that empty, but I will tell you that the state regulations require us to have a seat for every child registered in this school district. We are required to supply the transportation, and that means that we have to have enough buses to transport every child. If a parent drives their child to school, there's nothing we can do about
So there's got
that.
to be a seat for that child.
Correct.
That answers one person.
And the other part of that is depending on when you see the run. It could be full at 6:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock and then, or the other way around, I should say.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that? I'm sorry, Mr. Greenberg. So if we're required to have a seat for every child, how many buses does that mean we need to have at a minimum requirement? I can do the math. How many kids can go on a
Well,
bus?
we have 7 runs for each building.
No, but I mean, not runs. I'm talking about children.
Well, that's-
How many children can fit on a
that's-
school bus?
We have 66, anywhere from 44 to 66, depending on the size.
So that's 9.09 buses.
Right.
So we're required to have 9.09 buses.
Correct.
Okay. We have 14.
We
So I mean,
need-
we've certainly satisfied the minimum requirement.
Yes, we absolutely have.
Okay, next. Do you have any short buses, you know, for children who need special attention, special needs?
Minibuses, we do have minibuses, yes. We do have smaller buses, and yes, we are getting one with wheelchair access.
Okay, next thing. I realize now that you're going to be leasing the buses? Or-
Yes, that is
No.
correct.
Okay. And when you sent this information out to the leasing, or trying to obtain it, you went to how many companies?
I advertised it in the official newspapers of the district and the Times Herald Record, and I have 5 companies who have contacted me for the bid.
There's a company in Sparbush who does that, was that ever contacted?
I am unaware of that company.
They had to bid. They had to
So
bid.
if you know of their information, please, I would be glad to contact them, and if they're interested in the bid, I would send that to them.
Because, I mean, they have multitudes of buses that are running out.
Are you talking about Quality?
I believe so, yeah.
Quality
the
Bus?
one.
I am in contact with Mr. Martucci all the time. He is aware that we have a bid out on the
Ruth, he's misunderstanding. He thinks we still need the service.
Oh, we're not leased. All right, clarify then. So, Quality, we do not need to lease service from them.
Okay.
The only time we lease service from a bus company is in the spring when our athletic teams are going.
So the system that you're going to use now, coming up for September, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is, that's not a lease bus.
Yeah, they are leased.
The buses are going to be leased.
For 5 years.
And they're going to be using our current drivers?
Yes, they are.
Okay, because that was the point, they said we're not going, it would be unfair to lay off them. And I said,
Absolutely
That I
not.
knew that they were going to keep the same drivers.
Correct.
Under the same conditions.
Yes.
Who maintains the buses?
We will be maintaining the buses, but all of the parts will be supplied by the company we are getting the equipment from. And our mechanics, we will need 1.5 mechanics, so that will free up one of our mechanics a little bit to do some courier work and a little more flexibility. No one's job will be affected.
Next thing. This is going to be a program that's going to last 5 years.
Correct.
Okay. And the current buses that we have now are going to be sold?
They will be sold by auction.
Okay. Now, the money that's going to be collected from the auction, what is going to happen to that money?
That is going into the general budget.
Okay. Now comes the question. The question is this: at the end of the 5 years, if the school board deems that this is not a successful project and we have to buy new buses again, shouldn't it be incumbent upon us to put that money into an escrow account so that it wouldn't just sort of disappear in the general fund?
Well, no, because we've already decided that in year 3, we are going to do a cost-benefit analysis to see how this program is working and what is the best way to proceed. And if the best way to proceed is to go back to purchasing, we will then budget to purchase 2 or 3 buses per year.
I understand that.
So,
That's what they used
because-
to do.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to bring out, if you take that money now and put that into the general fund, it will sort of disappear.
It has to be put in the general fund to pay for the
Wouldn't it
lease.
be put into an escrow account?
It's going to
It's
pay for
already
the lease,
been
though.
built into the budget.
It's going to pay for the lease, so it's budget neutral. Where the money is going to actually pay for the lease of the sold buses, so it's not impacting our budget.
Because I know that if, or I assume, that if we had to buy new buses, we'd have to float a bond issue, am I correct?
Correct?
Which could be rather costly.
Yes.
But that's no different than if we had to buy new buses right now.
Let me go back to what you just said, right? That we're going to use the money that we get from the auction.
Yes,
right,
yes.
to pay for the new lease. I don't think that would be the right way to go, because that would be money that we wouldn't normally have. You know, that's new money put in.
Well, that's how we budgeted it for the first year, so that we would not have to raise the tax levy, so that we could make this lease payment be cost neutral in the first year. Then the second year, we will get the transportation aid on the new equipment, and our budget lines will have been reduced already, so we will not be budgeting funds, and that's how we'll pay for the next 4 years.
Yeah, many of these questions came up at the senior meeting. They talked about this, and many of the seniors I'm going to be right out there were against it. They would want, whether they did or not, they claimed it, because they felt it would be not cost effective. And of course, as a senior person, who the only thing they have going to the school system is their money, they want to say, we don't want as much money going to school. They have no children going there.
I understand.
So that's my concern. This is what I would be put behind. But my main thing is that I still not clear that the money that we're getting from the auction is going to be used to pay, because we wouldn't have that money anyway, so you would still have budgeted money for the transportation system without using the auction money.
Well, what would have happened was the tax levy would have increased. That's what would have
Well,
happened.
I mean, I question that only because I don't know what the school budget is.
Right.
Regarding the transportation. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberger.
Mr. Clerk?
For the purpose of taking back information, I think his concern is that this is what they call a one-shot revenue, and the state of New York does it all the time. Now, the problem with the one-shot revenue is it doesn't reoccur next year. So next year, the cost is going to be in the budget, but the revenue is not. So that revenue next year is going to have to come from somewhere.
Well, it's going to come from transportation aid, is where it's going to come from. So it's not a one-shot revenue. That's why we did it the way we did it. The first year was the money from auctioning the buses, and the 4 consecutive years was the transportation aid, and that'll carry over into the next year, which will assist us in whichever way we're going to go, either buy or continue to lease.
Ruth, I'm so sorry I missed this. I should have caught this, and this is my fault. But why is the first year not aidable?
And it is not aidable the first year. You have to
spend it
never
to
in
get
the
it
first
back.
year
To get
do
it
you
back.
get your
You do.
aid back.
Just like with
Always
BOCES,
the
we lay
next
the
year.
money out for this year.
Yeah.
So in October, we get a check from BOCES, October, November, something like that.
Correct.
That's our aid for the year before.
Got it.
Because you
So
have to
we lay
report
out the
your
money up
expenses.
front, we get it back the following fiscal year.
Right. You have to report your expenses.
And since, so the buses that we currently drive, the bonds have all been satisfied, so there's no aid
Yes.
coming from, okay.
Correct. Yeah, we won't be incurring expense on those.
I'm just going to throw this out there, because this has made me uncomfortable all along. And
Why?
I'm pleased
You can do
that,
that.
I'm pleased that we had such overwhelming support for the bus lease. It was overwhelmingly supported, which means that our community wants for us to drive safe and reliable buses for our children. So that's, what I'm worried about is after 5 years, right? Because we can't predict with any kind of certainty what the economic environment's going to be, what the attitude of our voters are going to be when we have to now ask for a new lease for buses for 5 years down the road. So this is just, I've been thinking about this over the course of the month. We don't have to do anything, but I just want to get your thoughts on this. We used to purchase a number of buses each year. So in other words, you'd vote on the school budget, you'd then vote on the purchase of buses, right? Maybe, instead of waiting until year 3 to do the cost analysis to assess whether the lease makes sense, we ought to start thinking about now whether we, next year, ask for 2 buses that we purchase, right? So we purchase 2 buses next year if we get voter approval, then decrease our leased fleet down to 12 buses. Then the second year we ask for another. So by the end of the lease, we've actually purchased buses. You're shaking your head. That's not a bad idea.
You're not going to get a lease financing company to allow you to terminate the lease.
I thought we agreed we could.
I am asking for up to 3 should enrollment decrease.
Oh, so we have stipulations now on exactly what we can do.
They are
to-
not going to give us the financing terms that are most economical. If we go into it saying, well, year 2, we're going to buy 2 buses, so we're going to give you back 2. Year 3, we're going to buy 2 buses, so we're going to give you back 2
But didn't
more.
we, so the voters authorized up to $1.4 million, up to.
Yes.
But up to, right? So we don't have to spend, but now what you're saying is for the financing arrangements, now we're kind of locked into having at minimum of 11 buses, even if we don't need 11 buses. And I don't think that anybody knew that we had these additional stipulations on the financing for this bus lease.
Oh,
I
I
thought
think
that if
I
we
did
could
talk
negotiate
about
the
that.
mileage.
No, I did.
We understood
talk
that?
about
I
that.
thought we talked about the idea that if we had to downsize our lease, we could downsize our lease, but we talked about it in general terms.
Only for enrollment decrease on
Right.
a minimum number of vehicles, because you're not going to get a good return. You're not going to get a good financing package if you do it any other way.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
you're making now a 5-year commitment on the basis of knowledge that you don't yet know. I mean, we don't know what our enrollment trend is going to be 5 years out, so I thought, we talked about this in general terms, that we'd have all kinds of flexibility with our mileage requirements and with the number of buses that we had to actually maintain throughout the 5 years. I never saw in writing anywhere that we'd have a maximum of 3 buses that we could decrease our lease quantity by. This is the first time I'm hearing this.
I think I did say that you could not do that. You could not ask to terminate a lease.
No, not terminate, to change the terms of the lease and the quantity of vehicles.
Well, you're asking to terminate a lease on
Did we?
it.
Did I miss that?
I think so. I understood that lease.
It's
for that
So we
deal
cannot,
that we
so
were
it's
agreeing to.
impossible at this point now to purchase a number of vehicles where if our lease is not now approved in year 6, that we would have vehicles that we own. That's not going to be, unless we
I don't see-
generate additional revenue.
Exactly, and I don't see that happening until year 3, purchasing any equipment. If we decide in year 3, that would be the first year I would see us buying any equipment.
Okay.
We talked about it without leasing. Because Paul had talked about, I started that and said we used to buy 2 buses ahead. And I thought that was the best we'd ever done. But then Paul said that it, yes.
Who's Paul?
Huh?
Who's Paul?
Clark.
Oh, Mr. Clark.
He said that, but it would work out better because they're paying for the parts and more or less the maintenance of it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Do it this way.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're buying 2 buses ahead and then getting reimbursed from the state that way. But that has nothing to do with leasing.
There is one other point I want to make. What is that gentleman's name?
Scotty Greenberg.
Mr. Greenberg.
Mr. Greenberger? There's one other point I did not make for you that you could go back with. Not only is the equipment company providing the parts, but they are also going to give us the proprietary software to diagnose any issues that may occur, and our mechanics would be able to make the repairs, and then we will submit to that company to reimburse us for their time, and they'll supply the parts, but we can submit our mechanics' salary.
Did you say that they will reimburse the mechanic's salary?
Yes.
For the time?
Yes.
Which would be better for us.
Yes, because
I assume that you, using the term crunch the numbers, that this is a better system than
at this
leasing it better
point,
now?
at this point in time, this is the better way for us to move forward with our transportation fleet.
That's what Mr. Siegel mentioned about buying buses. I'm familiar with, I've been up here for many, many years. And I was one of the people who used to work on the school buses when they used to use the garage down in Elwood. And so they didn't have a mechanic, on staff. They would use, but if they had something wrong, they would hire 1 or 2 mechanics in the town to do the buses. And they also used to, there was a man up here, I don't know how many people remember, Rube Young, you know?
Yeah, I remember Rube.
And Rube Young used to have 2 school buses. And he would hire them out to the school.
Oh, the days.
And he also had what they call short bus, what I call a short bus, which was a 7-passenger vehicle. So that he did where the students lived pretty far away. Now, I don't know if that's a feasible thing of doing it that way also.
Yeah, we do have vans that transport students to those
Right,
distant
correct.
programs.
That's why I asked you to get quotes.
Yes.
But on the other hand, if there was a company that owned the buses and said, okay, we will supply the driver by hiring the driver, which we normally use, we would supply a driver and all the maintenance. I don't know if that would have been better.
Well, the problem with that is New York State Department of Transportation has some very strict guidelines, and you have to follow them, or they will shut you down.
Right. I mean, I understand over the years, because I'm talking about 40,
It's a lot, it's a lot
50 years.
different now. They have
Oh, I
a
remember.
lot of regulations.
Okay. But
You
All
remember?
right, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone is clarified on the issue. Not making from my point of view.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, I want to go back to 6.04 again. Is there anyone on the board that specializes in understanding the teacher's contract?
Meaning,
Because
I think I have a pretty good handle on it, Mr.
what
Clark.
is it supposed to mean?
I think the passage about long-term leave absence says that teacher will be placed on step 1 of the teacher's contract. Now, step 1 in 16-17 is going to go with 17-18 is going to go up. But step 2 in 17-18 is going to go up twice as fast. So step 1 and step 2 are two different steps. Just picture a set of stairs. Okay, you got step 1, you got step 2. So step 1 moves up to take the place of step 2. But step 2 now is on the third step up. Understand what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So it's not the same amount of money.
Listen, the only thing I can say, Mr. Clark, is, the board voted to move on from that motion, so.
And you're also setting precedent. If it's not, if it doesn't have any provision in the teacher's contract, to my knowledge, about having a second-year leave replacement and how that person gets paid. So if you guys are negotiating a contract up there, what you just did.
Not really.
I'm sorry, Mrs.
I mean,
Bose?
not really. We didn't have we're not sitting at a table with the faculty.
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Beth Dearman from Eldred. Mr. Krebs isn't here tonight. I don't know if this was going to be part of his report or not, but I just wanted to let you guys know that on May 18th, the Eldred Key Elements came on a trip out to the Center for Discovery and did a choral workshop with a performing group from the center. And I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that and also thank the administration for always supporting. This is the second year that we've been able to do this and supporting the group to come out. And it was an amazing experience for both the students at the center and the students from Eldred. We toured the farm. They got to collect eggs from the chickens and meet a lot of the students there. And for me, it's a great thing to introduce our students to job possibilities that are in the county and professional as well as paraprofessional positions that can be done locally. And I would love it if we could continue to do it with the center, but also other organizations, agencies, job sites throughout the county in hopes that more and more students, when they graduate, will stay local if they choose to go to college and then come back, or stay local if they choose to move on with a career in the area. So just wanted to put that out.
Thank you. Even beyond the county too, but I mean, if they could go down to Orange County. I forgot to mention, I think, Mr. Gass, I think this is something that you said. Something like we're getting so used to having sports seasons like this that it's like you almost take it for granted. I think that was you, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, and I forgot because that's an important point. We kind of get used to hearing all this really neat stuff about what our music kids are doing and what our sports kids are doing, but other people outside of Eldred might not know that, so when you can send your key elements and your athletes out as ambassadors for the school, well then people start to recognize Eldred as something really cool and unique. So that is an additional benefit. The kids get the benefit of exploring career opportunities, but now everybody in the Center for Discovery or wherever they go recognizes these kids from Eldred as having something uniquely special about their school district.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Hazen, as a taxpayer, as a parent, as an employee of the school district, as a proud member of the Eldred Central School Faculty Association, I'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Reisner, for your service to the
Okay, you can sit
district.
now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate your service to
Thank
the
you.
district.
He meant that in a very nice way.
Listen, we go way back. No disrespect.
Because we both know who Group Young is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's even scarier.
I think I might have ridden the bus once or twice.
I know I did.
Okay. If there's no other public comment, then we need a motion for an executive session.
Motion.
I'll second.
We need, let me finish.
Okay.
We need executive session for contractual, legal, and specific personnel matters.
3 separate issues, Doug?
I believe 2 issues.
I'll make that motion.
The one, yeah.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I hope not, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, will we be
Yes,
doing business?
we will be doing no business afterwards.
No business, okay.
So,
Contractual legal?
contractual, legal, and specific personnel matters. How does that
Ms.
sound?
Sina's room, folks.
Okay, so we need to vote, Brian?
Miss Diane, did you say we're going
Carol?
downstairs?
No?
Yes.
Carol? Carol?
said yes.
Please say yes.
Yes.
Linda? Amador?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Yes. Yes, because I'm not,
I can stay.
You need to come in.
fair enough.
It's like Norman's going. Norman's going. He's going over.
All right.
Monday, next Monday, coming back on Tuesday, Thursday. I'm going to
No.
guess what?
One for each of us, and an extra.
We'll come back. Don't
Wish to go fishing. So the whole crew's going, right? It's my son-in-law. So, it's been a great thing. Well, we don't want Mama Lang, she can come and babysit.